her idea, her response was, remember that one day that you put on that stupid hat? And with that, and brought the fishing rod with you? You know, so I say, oh, okay, big group lesson. Okay, so I say, so I'm going to share with you how I see, you know, to help with the kids understand a little bit better. So apparently that caught her attention that day when I put on my silly hat. So the first thing is that I want to share with you is that, do we all come here to serve God because we're burdened to do so? Okay, so when we have our assignment from the teacher, from Julia, do we feel like that, oh, it's me again, why me? You know, I'm so busy, you know, but I have to do it. But do you have that passion? Do you really have that passion to teach the kids because of our Lord? Okay, so there's one encouraging sharing I want to share with you really quickly was that yesterday during our small group study, we were, you know, how many of you know Francis Chan? He's the founding member of the Cornerstone Church. So he was saying that he goes to a university to do sermon regularly, the same place, and they have this praise team. There is just this lady always stands out, different than anybody else. That lady always has the passion to do the work. Okay, so Francis Chan was like, why are you so different? Why you always stand out every week? You know, and so he asked her, okay, what makes you so different? And one thing that she said was, I pray hard to God, like all we did, right? All we do all the time. We pray hard to God, not to ask God to give us the same worship experience like last week. She said, I pray to God that, why don't you give me something new today? Different from last week. You know, ask God to have a brand new experience to teach, to praise, whatever, different than last week. Wow, I say, I've never thought of that. When we do worship, the worship team, you know, set up and everything, I say, God, just give us the same old good experience that we had last week. You know, consistency, right? Make sure nothing fails, but you know, everything's set up accordingly. So that kind of struck me was that, did we really have the passion to come and saying that, oh, I want to make something different? So I hope that's kind of like an inspiration or, you know, encouraging for all of you saying that. Do we come here just to do the work, or do we come here to want to make a difference? So I think that keeps me going. Sometimes I know I have to drag my feet and say, well, I got to do preparation and all that kind of stuff. But if you have that mind, burning heart in your mind, God will help you. God will help you to put the materials together. Sometimes I know that your feeling is that sometimes I prepare for materials, but then halfway through the week I say, it's not really right, you know? And then you change direction, which is okay, which is absolutely okay. So whatever you guys do, God call you to come and do the work, and God will lead you. Okay, don't worry about that whether your material is right or not. You pray about it, you pray hard about it, and God will give you that at the end of the week. So, okay, enough of that. So, so the reason why Julie asked me to come here is talk about big group, right? So what's the big difference between a big group and a small group?
Audience.
Audience. Okay, what do you mean by that?
Age.
Age difference. The biggest difference is that we got kids, kindergartner, right? The big range of age group, and the 5th graders, right? So how could you, what would you do when you teach in a big group like that? At the most you have is 5 to 10 minutes, guys. That's all the attention you can grab, and then people will start going a different direction, right? So how many times have you walked up to the group ready to present your group message, and everybody's already like gone, right? So because they already paid attention with the praising. After they praising the highlights, now you're gonna come on top and tell them something, right? So that's when you walk up, you say, you talk to yourself. Wow, what am I gonna do? Right? How many of you have that feeling going up there? And then you start looking at the clock. I got 5, 10 minutes, right? So, but the idea is that your goal is to deliver one message to the kids within 5 minutes time. That's all. Okay? And of course, I'm Julie going to talk about how you handle the class, you know, how you manage the class attention and stuff like that, probably later. How you do that, like guidelines. At least I think that needs to be consistent. Like, I mean, sometimes you say you got to raise your hand before you talk, that type of stuff, right? But all you have is 5 minutes. How can you captivate them, capture their attention in 5 minutes? So before that, I want to share a verse with you. It's Hebrew. Hebrews chapter 4:12 says, "For the word of God is alive and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. It penetrates even to dividing souls and spirits, joints and marrows. It judges the thought and attitude of the heart." So when we teach our kids, is the message alive and active, rather than just reciting what's on your paper. So I think the best thing to do to bring out that captivity is use an object. Use something different to catch attention. How many times have you, when you pull up a bag, you want to pull something out, and the kids' attentions draw to that bag right away? You know, when you just say, how many of you like to read Bible verse? Nobody raised their hand. How many of you how's your prayer life and stuff like that? When you ask that kind of question, you might have 1 or 2 kids that always participate, that always raise their hand. You know that, they'll always raise their hand. They're always willing to help you, but majority, their attention is somewhere. So, but you bring an object to the table, they all focus on that object. So I'm kind of want to focus on object lessons. You guys heard about object lessons, right? So last time when when the topic was about temptation, okay, talk about temptation. So I'm kind of saying, what should I do for object lessons? So there are many resources I can share with you how to find some of these ideas. But when I go to search Francis Chan, he had the exact sermon actually that I used. I was saying, wow. Now the sermon was to the adults, okay, to a huge congregation. He put on a hat. When he pulled a hat out, and the hat is all surrounded with things along the side, so it's kind of dangling. I didn't bring it. So it's all dangling. So it has a car, it has candy, the way how I put it together. So all the attraction that video games, little cartridge games, right? And people there and stuff like that. So all around that hat. So when you put on that hat, my point is that in this world, there are so many temptations all around us. No matter which way you turn, there are stuff. No matter which way you turn. So I put on that hat. The kids love it. They remember when they see the hat, they will remember for a long time that, hey, we gotta get our priorities straight. Another example of object lesson was talk about we got to seek you first, seek God first. Related to priority, setting priorities, right? You got to focus your priorities, right? So one idea I had was I'll put a jar out, okay, and then I have golf balls, I have pebbles, and I have sand. Okay, it's 3 different types of sizes and stuff. So if you pour your sand, which is the small priorities, the idea is golf ball is the biggest priority, right? And then the pebbles, and then the sand. So if you put your small priorities in the jar first, you pour the sand in there, and then if you put your medium size, put your pebbles in there, and then there's no way to fit in the golf ball. The golf balls won't fit. Okay, but now you put the golf ball in first, then you put the pebbles, then you start filling the cracks. And when you put the sand in, it fills the entire jar. Okay, so the idea is that God needs to come first. If you put the important things into your jar, well first, okay, you gotta empty yourself first, right? You gotta empty the jar, you put God stuff in there, golf ball, and you put your other priorities. Magically, it fits everything. Everything will be done accordingly. So that's another example, right? But that usually, my point is that when you bring an object out of a bag, you catch the attention. Now, 5 minutes probably, that's all you have. 5 or 10 minutes, right? At the same time, You also want to focusing on a few kids out there that always are helpers. You know them. So when you have condition, you have situations, you're out of control, you always look to those kids to help you out, right? We all do that, right? We all know that who is always going to be cooperating, right? You always identify them. But now sometimes, if you have a tough lesson comes, it'll help before you start the class, you will talk to a couple kids, say, hey, I need your help. When I need your help, you come and help me, right? So they always really do that. So, any questions so far?
Do you have any material that can help us to think of all those their lessons?
Yeah. I'm going to get to that. Okay, good question. All right. All right.
5 minutes.
Yeah, you're gonna have 5 minutes attention. Okay, so, all right, so object lesson is pretty good because it's interactive, right? So you get the kids involved, you ask a question, and when you're done, they will remember it quite quickly. The other day about the fishing pole was that reading that temptation was that for the fishing pole I put $1 at the very end of it, hanging in. So I'll start giving you and take it away. So next time when they fish, when they go fishing with their parents, they'll know, this looks familiar. That's temptation. So it's kind of like this. It works out pretty good. Why do we need to use object lessons? Because actually it's relatively easy to put together. When you have the resources, relatively easy to get through. And you want to get like day-to-day ordinary items. You don't want to get fancy items because you want the items to be in their face all the time. So when they see that, they remember it, right? It's visual. You can see it. You can touch it. And it's usually fairly short. I mean, the delivery time is very short. Why do we need to use object lesson? Because Jesus used it, right? The parables. In the form of parables. There are over 30 parables that Jesus uses. So why? Because they're talking to people that, like us, that kind of stupid at that time. Couldn't get it, right? So, but looking at objects, telling you, using those objects to teach a lesson, I think is very effective. So, okay, so I want to share with a couple, if you want to go to a website, there are a two websites that I could recommend you go to. Okay, how do you know that a website, when you do research, okay, how do you know whether that website is fake, the fake statement of that website is good or not, discerning that website. So you usually go to a website and do about us. And you can read their fake statement. One you write it down is creativebiblestudy.com. Creative. Yeah. creativebiblestudy.com.
Julia, do you want to just say email with all the links later today?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I use this quite a bit, and I just want to show you quickly. Now again, you could go to you could go to the home page to check on About Us here, right? Check about their statement of faith. Read about it, and when you feel comfortable with their statement of faith statement, then you feel comfortable with that website. And then on the left-hand side, it says as object lessons, right? Do you see that up there?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then just give you, should I full screen it? Okay, so if you start scrolling down, if you are in a hurry though, try using their object lesson index. Okay, you can use the index and look things up. So sometimes most of the time we're in a hurry, right? Okay, so I click on the index, and what they do is that they give you ideas here. Okay, hunting, temptations, uniform, armor of God. I mean, what do you use, and what's the idea of that? It will be useful. Now you can substitute, you can be creative. You just want to get the idea, and then you say, hey, I can use the other object as well, right? So this is one good place to be. And the other place, even better, is Sermon for Kids. You guys heard about that website? So if you do sermons for kids, They give you a weekly sermon, and it also give you object lessons, pretty primarily for object lessons. So what I do here is, you can go to the search bar up there. Okay, where is it? Okay, seek year first. Ah, not bad, huh? Seek year first. What do they do? Well, you're gonna do a search. They give you 2 topics. Okay, God's keys to happiness. So this is what you need: a key ring with keys, right? And it tells you what are you gonna say. It has the whole script in there. Okay. Now the idea is that big group lessons from Julia's curriculum, we know what the topic of that week is, right? Now big group, I think you're gonna let the Sunday school teacher to do the small group deep dive into the verse, right? So you wanna have a little bit thing different to catch the kids' attention, so that when they go to the small group, it's a little bit different than the materials provided. Sometimes you prepare the same stuff. The big group is going through verses, and then going to the small group. The small group teacher is like, hey, you already taught my lesson, right? So for the big group, I like to be a little bit different, but stay on the topic, right? So let's say if that week's topic is seek ye first, put God's priority first. Then you would come in here and give you ideas. It's not to replace Julian material. It's to give you ideas of how you can have one object or multiple objects to bring that life out, just like the Bible verse Hebrew was talking about. God's words is active and alive. Bring that out for the kids. And you only got 5-10 minutes, right? So this is just an example, and I think Julia is going to send out the link to you. And again, another option is to go to YouTube, but you don't know what material. Okay, but luckily I was able to look for Francis, that he has the exact object lesson for that. So I hope it helps for you guys. And if you need more websites or questions, I can give you the information. But make sure that if you go to a website, take a look at their faith statement to see whether they believe in the same values we are as a Christian.
So you already checked those 2, right?
Yes. Yeah. So. Okay. Anything else, guys?
Hindu on the 17th. Can I just sit?
That's exactly what I'm referring to. So I look at that.
Well, so I think it's really interesting that Andy and I are both asked to share about how we prepare, and even about the same topic, we can present it very differently. So, you know, Andy likes objects, but I like images, but they both serve the same purpose. And before I start, I was going to tell you, in high school, I had a terrible fear of public speaking. And so I think it's funny how God works in you, and now I'm speaking, you know, in public, and it's actually a very big fear I had. But I think that when you're speaking up to teach people about God, you put aside your fear, you put aside about you don't think you can do this, you're not trained, because God will help us accomplish what we need to do. And so, along with what Andy was saying, we have a very short attention span with the children. And so I kind of just prepared for you a message the way I would prepare for the children. So let's go. So, you know, our brains are really easily bored. I mean, even adults, okay? And so we have 10 minutes to create something that will capture people's attention, and you have to use it in a way to engage. And you have to engage them very quickly, like right at the beginning, an emotional hook. So children's attention span There's a lot of formulas, but generally it's whatever their age plus 1. Okay, so 2-year-old 3 minutes, 5-year-old 6 minutes, plus or minus. I saw some other website where they said 9-year-old can concentrate 20 to 25 minutes. I rejected that one because I did not think that was possible.
I think even an adult cannot last that long.
Now, this is adults, okay? So you think about our pastor or whatever when they're giving a sermon. At the very beginning, there's very high level of attention, right? And then as you go along, people kind of drift off. And then at the very end, they're paying attention again. So this is normal pattern. We just can only maintain high level of attention for so long. So what happens when you are dealing with children, their attentions are going to go up and down like this. So when their attention is getting lower, we have to reset. So even within the 10-minute, 15-minute period, you have to break that up into like, I'm going to tell a story for 2 minutes, and then I'm going to do something, and then I'll do something else. You're switching it up to keep them engaged. Because every time you show something, an object, or tell a story, or do something change, they're paying attention again. Then you can tell your message. So how do you reset? So you can tell a story, tell a joke, do something goofy to get them laughing. And you can introduce a game or an activity, or you can ask them for questions. A lot of times when I prepare for a lesson, right in the middle, some child will raise their hand, interrupt your lesson, but they asked a really good question. And so in those situations, I will put aside my lesson to answer their question because it's something that they're thinking about that applies to them. And so if I run out and I have to make a little change, that's okay because they actually are listening. And so I'm happy to hear that they're paying attention. So this is like one of the things that I like to do. I like to flash a picture and then I'm telling them the story. So you're probably thinking, okay, well, why are you showing me a picture of a goldfish? So they said that it's actually really hard to pay attention. They said in year 2000, people can pay attention for about 12 seconds before they start getting distracted. But now in 2013, it's 8 seconds. This is adults. Okay. So they said that at the work, if your coworker is going on and on, they kind of tune out after 15 seconds, And so we're talking about short attention spans. So they actually said a goldfish can pay attention for 9 seconds, and then a person pays attention for 8 seconds. So if I were teaching the children, I would show them goldfish, and then I would say, pay attention for 8 seconds, and then when they see the goldfish, they'll remember, oh, I have to pay attention. So for my message to you, I thought of, what are the 3 points? And this is how I got through medical school too. I would boil everything down into like a acronym. I would have long lists of things I had to remember, but I don't remember everything. I just remember, like for example, there's 3 things I want you to think about. So I say SIP, and then I try to think of a picture or something. And what does that stand for? Well, the S stands for simple, okay? Make your lesson, because when you go through the lesson plan, it's like 30 pages. You cannot regurgitate, repeat the whole 30 pages. The children can't deal with that. But I read the 30 pages, and then I start thinking about how could I tell them about this lesson in 1 sentence, okay? 1 sentence, and keep it really simple. And then secondly, once I decide what the sentence is going to be, I think about how do I make this interesting? So I think a lot in my mind about what story, what activity would I do to go along with my sentence. And then thirdly, I want it to be personal. Like when they leave, if they listen to a story, but it doesn't affect them, they cannot apply it. So I think that one of the things that means the most to me is this child can walk out of our church and think about how this story can change my life. I think that oftentimes the most challenging, because children will tell you story, Bible verses, but you ask them, how would you do this in your life? They can't tell you. So we kind of have to really work on repeating it, week after week. So the S is for simple, interesting, and personal. Now, Everybody know what this is, right? So when you say simple, I think of like the whole lesson. I was thinking, what object could I show you guys to make it, you know? So I thought of a chicken bouillon. So it's like soup that's a big pot boiled down into a tiny cube. But it's very, very flavorful. So even though it's tiny, it still has a lot of flavor. So I think it's impossible to take a big lesson and make it into a small, flavorful chunk. Okay? So I think Andy was talking about some of these things. Like, it's really important because if they sit there and just listen to you, listen to us talk and talk and talk, they're passive. They're not, 7, 8 seconds, they're gone. And so what we want to do is just continue to engage them, So engage them through, I've had some, I had a lot of fun actually just doing little activities, and we asked for the kids to come up and volunteer. And then, a lot, when they're doing it, they're laughing, they're paying attention, and you can kind of just repeat the lesson that you want them to learn. And you can show pictures, you can ask questions, brainstorm, games. I mean, there's a lot of different things. You can mix it up. So now I want to just run through one lesson that I actually prepared. The lesson was called Jesus Forgives Sin. And I looked at the lesson, it was like 26 pages of the material. And so I kind of thought about, what do I want? I read the entire lesson, then I wanted to condense it into a one sentence. So I decided that I wanted to tell them only Jesus has the authority to forgive sins. I mean, they can cover lots of things, but that's what I chose to emphasize, And so then I thought the object of my little 10-minute, 15-minute lesson was to talk about authority, forgiveness, and sin. I want to talk about those 3 things. And then I decided that for the application, I would use what it was called backpack of sin. So I brought a backpack and some really heavy books. So that was the activity. So here's the actual lesson. So I started by telling them there's 3 things I want to tell you about today, And then we kind of went through and talked about what forgiveness is. What is forgive? And notice I always have a picture. Have a picture there. I said, forgive means you have to stop feeling angry towards other people, even though if they did something wrong to you. And then maybe sometimes they would have some response. Oh yeah, my brother made me angry. They tell you. And then we talk about why do we need forgiveness. Again, I try to have an image on every picture because some of the kids can't read. So you need to show them a picture. And then I said, well, these are things that, because some people will say, I never do anything wrong. And then I'll show this picture. They'll say, oh yeah, I do that. You do bad things to your brother and sister. So again, applying it to every day, things that they might be doing. And then so I said, we need forgiveness from God because of our sin. And then I said, okay, but what is sin? Then so you kind of lead in. And so I show them a picture, I'm sure all of you seen this again. It's just sin is not obeying God. Very simple. And then again a picture. And then I went into the kind of the meat, just we all have sinned against God and we fall short of the glory of God. So we kind of talk about your sin to everyone's sin. So then at this point, I do my backpack of sin. I asked for volunteers. And then I found the biggest books I could find, and I just labeled them. Like one is getting angry or lying or whatever. And then so I asked for volunteers. So a kid puts on the backpack, and then I said, okay, who lies? They raise their hand. I put the big book in their backpack, and then I said, okay, who talks back to their parents. Put another big heavy book. So pretty soon they're loaded up with this backpack that's really, really heavy. And then they'll say, oh, it's so heavy. And then I'll say, but when you ask God for forgiveness, He will take away the sin. So we start start taking the books out of the backpack, and they were like, oh, it's lighter. So, again, taking an everyday object and showing how they can, how they can connect that. And then, the final part I was talking about authority. What does authority mean? So I give I'm a big dictionary fan, so I'm always giving definitions. So power, right, to give orders. And then we talk, now going to images. I said, who has authority? Police officer, and then we'll talk about, oh, my mom got a speeding ticket, whatever. and then here's a judge. Judge has authority, right? And how about, does your mom have authority? Or your dad have authority? Oh yeah. And then I'm linking that into, just repeating the lessons that, but that the Son of Man has power enough to forgive sins, just tie that into the key verse. And, oops. So then, at the end, I don't know how I think that was a slide from another lesson that was reviewed from the previous lesson. And then I tie it at the end. Only God has power to forgive our sins. And then, then in the end, I said, Jesus has the ultimate authority above all. So now if I show you the picture, do you remember what the goldfish stands for?
9 minutes.
How about this one? How about this? Simple, flavorful, condensed, right? How about this one?
Interesting and personal.
Yeah, there you go. Yay, so that's me.
Any questions for Andy or Inzu before we move on? So everybody get a flavor of what the large group message is like and how to hook the kids? Yeah, okay, great.
I just have one input for big group lessons because I've sometimes observed that thing, with the kids. One thing I noticed that because of the age difference, some younger kids, they do not have that vocabulary the bigger kids have. So when the teacher used the word or even use a simple word to explain, they still don't understand the simple word sometimes. So maybe you think about, because you're talking, especially younger kids, also when you talk, use something they can understand. For example, when I noticed that when you talk about disciple, they have no clue, but you said student of Jesus, they know. Something like this simple, you don't assume they know this. Or if they glorify God, they don't know. But when I say, if you do this, make God happy, do you want to do that they can understand. Especially for the younger kids, use simple language they can understand. Just pretend if your kids can understand this, doesn't mean other kids don't understand. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, because the large group, the age difference, so it's very difficult to deliver the message, but then making sure every child understands. So that's why you see the picture, the visual part is so important to grab their attention. That's why we want to use objects or visuals, anything that they can, because in 9 seconds. So every time you flip a slide, you have another thing to catch your attention. That's why it's important to have that. Okay, so basically what the large group is, make it simple, because you have a large lesson, make it simple, interesting, and personal. So my job right now is actually going to the details of what teachers need to be doing, what are things need to watch out for. Especially today we have a first day of a time change. So there are a lot of logistic things we have to go dive into more detail on what we're going to do. But before we do that, just want to introduce new forms. Okay, each classroom teacher has a folder, so I will make change of that. Right now, we also changed the age cutoff line. We want to keep the 6th graders still in children's program until they go into 7th grade. So basically, nursery is from birth till 3, and then the next age group is 3 to 5, and then the next group it will be 1st grade to 3rd grade, and then 4, 5, 6. Okay, so every classroom has their own characteristic because the age difference. But every class should have a attendance folder. So if you're a new teacher, if you don't know where these are, we have a cabinet of 3CW in room 101. When you go out of the office on the left-hand corner with a nursery, there's a cabinet. I have a key and I think Audrey has a key, right? Correct? So I will try to come in open in the morning and I will lock up at the end. Okay? Or maybe Audrey, can you open in the morning and I lock up at the end? Okay? So that way, so you're open up the cabinet on the left hand side, there's a folder. All the attendance sheet needs to be in there. Now, this is the teacher's responsibility. I will go into that. In here, you have a sign-up sheet like this. Okay? And you have the children's name, fill in all the children's name, and you have to check off attendance, and if they bring their Bible and Bible verses. Okay, we really want to focus on memorized Bible verses. So this is just the form. So in the morning as teacher, you come in, you go into the cabinet, pick up this, and then you take your attendance, you put it back at the end. A lot of times you don't see them because I usually take them home. Whoever's absent, every week I will send out an email to parents. I try my best to condense a lesson and then email all the parents and let them know what's been taught. And then, asking if they haven't been coming for 2 weeks, and I would say, care about them. Okay, so, and then this one is a new form, registration form. If you have any new students, I will have a sheet or two in your folder. So whenever you see a parent, you have to check with them. I want all the information, especially email and phone numbers, so I can contact them. Okay, so this is the way to do that. So that will be in here. In there also, there is a rules that we came up with, consequences. So every folder should have one if you're wondering how to handle children. Okay, these are the rules that are in here also.
Is this rule on our website? So
I don't think it's on the website.
Like,
Yeah, but it's in your, it should be in it. Is it in there, Audrey?
I don't have rules in my.
You don't have rules? Okay, so I will make sure we have rules in there. So that's the
and
logistics.
if you want to just attach a card and send it to
Okay.
Need to go to
Yeah. Do I just press this one? Oh, okay, I jumped ahead of myself. I don't know, I just kind of gave them name bunny, fish, panda.
cheetah.
Because as 6th graders, they always want fast. So that's kind of the new cutoff line for age. There are cases that we want to take into consideration. Some parents will tell me, well, I don't think my child is ready to move up, then we will make that special allowance. But usually we will move them up unless we don't think they're ready, because every classroom, the structure is very different. Some may be a little bit harder for particular child, some may be too easy, but we try to keep it that way. Like today, we only have one nursery kid, and we try to keep them still, if you have one kid, we still want to run it, because you might have parents who come in later, then they couldn't find, if you decided, I'm not gonna be there because I have one kid, or send the kid up to another classroom, it makes it very difficult. So, if there's only one child, you still stay there. If there's no child, you stay there until halftime is released, okay? And then before you move out of there. But I think if you can just be there, wait until, just be there, because we might have parents come in later. Okay, this is our new schedule. Did everyone receive one from me? Who did not receive one from me? Who did not see? This is the first time you see this. Abigail? Oh, I didn't send it to you? Oh, okay, I probably, yeah. Okay, but I will forward that to you. This is our new schedule. Today we went 9:15 to 9:30. We're a little bit off today because we started late, but I am just so happy that God has brought all the, I think pretty much all the children came today, except a few. They may not have rights, I don't know, but majority of the kids are here, whoever that came. The classroom was full. We're running out of chairs. So very thankful to God, 9:15. And we had the large group message. Offering is something we like to teach our children, that in response to God's love, that's what we do. It's not because God needs money, okay? And I know there are a few families, they always give offering to their children, prepare their hearts to come. Thank you for doing that, because we really need to know how to respond to our God, when He loves us so much. So offering, we will do that right after singing and right before the large group message. So usually the large group message teacher will ask them to pray. I just have a little request, because the times that children don't know how to pray, they were talking, and the bag is passing, and then the teacher is praying. So if you're doing the offering, let's do the prayer first and then we pass the bag, because the kids cannot be listening to prayer and passing the bag at the same time. Too many things to do. So if we have an order so the children know, let's make sure we bow our heads and pray. We want to really develop that habit of knowing what to do, and then pass the bag. And then tell children, they don't look in, they don't put their hands in. This is something for God, so we need to show respect when we pass the bag. If you don't have anything to bring today, that's okay. Move on to the next person. Okay, and then 9:50 to 9:30, it's our lesson and application time. We have 45 minutes. Is it 45 minutes? 9:50? Oh, 40 minutes of time. So if the large group message is short and sweet, condensed, and this is the time that you can elaborate when you prepare in the lesson, okay? And then application is always something that's hard, but you have to ask them questions to themselves. Ask them to examine their hearts, okay? It's more of an individual time. And then we added the game time. So by 10:30, if you're a classroom teacher, bring the children, line them up, learn how to walk quietly in the hallways, walk to the gym. Because the longer time you take in lining up and getting ready, the shorter time you have at gym. So we had the teams to help out in the gym time, okay? And then today was good that even though Ben didn't show up, but I saw teachers were there, getting the younger children. One of my concerns is safety for the younger children, but today everything went smoothly. We want to keep the children away from the ball, the football, the basketball, but I will show you that later. And then after that, after 11, bring them back. Make sure you have your take a bathroom break, wash your hands, to prepare for the next section, which is snacks and memory verse. Okay, and then we'll talk more about that. And then 11:15 to 11:45, dramatization, craft, one-to-one time. I will have it. So I separate now. Singing time, what should it look like? Selection of songs. And one question I think Yajin was having, we try to keep it from the lesson. They have suggestions at the end. So today the singing, I chose Make Me a Servant. Okay, Change My Heart, Oh God. They're all suggestions from the lesson. Now you can always add another fun song in there at the end if you like. But try to keep it, the focus from the lesson. Okay. Large group message, okay, from the lesson plan. Now lesson and application. In your lesson, you have all the objective lessons right in there from your lesson. So keep it, you don't have to talk all of them, but you try. If you want to focus on one, that's good, if they can catch them, okay? But at least you try to make sure the children know how to answer the question that you taught, okay? Know the answer to the question you taught.
Julia, may I ask a question?
Okay.
So I understand today the first time, so our schedule is a bit off.
Yes.
But in the future, in reality, we won't start 9:15. We hope
will.
to start 9:15, but we did not this morning.
Today was 9:20.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I went to the classrooms, already 10:10.
Right, because of all the transition, we have to introduce different grade levels going in. We
Okay.
have a lot of things, yeah. Today's,
In the future, do we have a plan? So if we behind, like in the same time already, the large group lesson, watch out, like everybody have to think about a plan B. So today I cut short my lesson to just 20 minutes, and then we have to go down. And then when I come back, they don't have the attention anymore, so I have to start again.
oh, okay.
So it's very difficult for the lesson teacher. I know we have flexibility, we have 2 different time spans. But if I cut it into different 2 halves,
Then
it's
the
not
children-
as good. So I think everybody think about plan B. If you are behind, like, what you do.
So maybe
Cut short
what
the
we should do,
song.
like the song, I would try to cut, like today I cut White as Snow, because I knew the time was off. So the next person, like the large group teacher, I know you have planned everything, but just get the essence in, the theme in, and then close. Because we want to finish on time, so the classroom teacher will have enough time to do their lesson. We'll try to do that as much as we can. Maybe we'll have a time person at the, just to let you know. So we'll keep track of it, because you're right, everything is pushed back and it's hard. Another thing is, we scheduled 10:30, then go to gym. You can take an extra 5 minutes if you can wrap it up.
It's impossible. I only go through from verse 1 to 4.
Reading
Or
the verse.
5. I only go through verse 1
Okay, yeah,
to
today
5.
is just totally off probably for some, but then we will try to keep the lesson shortened before, so give classroom teacher. I thought we had at least 45 minutes, just like before. Before we have 45 minutes for the whole lesson, including crafts, including Bible verses. That means teachers really have to rush to get through. So that's why you may not cover all the objectives, but if you can prepare at least one in depth, it will be better than cover all of them and not getting it. You know, just one main point. So just like the large group message, if you keep one, understanding what temptation is and what is your own, how to prevent that, you know, it will be good.
I notice, kids have problems after the gym, their heart has problem to come back. And I think, personally, I will recommend is the first session, and after first session, you should, I do recommend they have the gyms in the last, not in the middle.
But we're
other,
supposed to finish the lesson already by the time we go to the gym. Just because we're off today, that we did not finish
Well,
our lesson.
I think another reason we did that is because we're going align with adult service. They're ending at 10:30.
yeah, I
So-
know it, but my thinking is, if we expect kids to be here for 3 hours in the morning, but if some kids have to leave early with the parents, the parents will come to the classroom and then they can take kids away. But the other kids, stay in the classroom to finish the lesson part, and then in the end, they can go to gym.
Yeah, the point is that the lesson, the small group lesson is supposed to finish at 10:30. Most of the teaching is
Yeah,
done by
because
that
some
time.
parents
Yeah,
pick
that's-
up kids early. We want to have at least a lesson to be in there.
I think I understand Gongha's point.
Mhm.
If you finish at 10:30, then for people who have to leave, they can go ahead and leave. For other kids, they can
Keep going.
keep going.
Yeah.
Then at the end,
They have something.
gym time.
So I think
This is what I
the
yeah,
question
I
you're talking about,
understand.
whether the kids
Can last that
last that long without a break.
Yeah.
But your point is that if you put a break in between, it's hard to bring them back.
Yeah, that's too much.
So I think,
Because after the game, they want to keep playing.
yeah,
They don't want to come back to the
They don't wanna come
classroom to
back.
do the Bible verse, everything.
Well,
以后他们回来就很难处理这样子。
Yeah. I mean, did every class have difficulty?
Yeah, I
Today's the
mean-
first day.
today, I mean, how does the teacher feels like that?
Today, I do feel the game is a big issue at 10:30. So it doesn't matter if you finish a class before 10:30, 10:30 kids have to move on to a gym. So become you rush, they have to, get the end for the lesson. But after the game, kids already relaxed. They enjoy the free time and then you come back, after snack, everything, you want them to come down to memorize Bible verse. It's kind of very challenging for them,
So you're saying that it would be better to have the games at the end?
I think that's more
Yeah, that's
flexible.
probably that's.
For us to do the snack and memory verse is okay, but go
Well,
back to the lesson
okay.
after the memory verse is difficult.
Okay.
Because
How
I
is the
cut
snack and memorization time today in class?
We're doing fine.
Is that a good, more relaxing time? So you don't require kids to sit there, because they can have snacks and they memorize, a little bit more freedom?
Yeah, we're doing okay.
I mean, we can take that into consideration, because we can actually just move snack up, but you wanna have that little break for kids to relax, because you're asking them to sit there for 2 hours, 2 hours with you, and the last half an hour is at gym. I mean, that makes sense too, but then we wanna make sure the kids can, they have some freedom in moving around in the classroom. You don't want them to be sitting the whole time. That's the main thing, just happen to give them a break. Attention span is only how many minutes?
9 seconds.
Right, so you wanna give them a short break somewhere.
It's, just like what you mentioned, their attention is only 9 minutes. But we expect them to be there for more than 3 hours.
Well,
And then, after you relax them and they come back, it's hard to get their attention back. That's why I do suggest, having that game in the end, not in the middle. Because game is a totally different from the lesson time. It's a big difference.
I know,
You want to go
yeah.
to a big difference and come back to original, it's more challenging.
Yeah, but I think for kids to have two hours of in the classroom is enough to make them feel very boring.
I know it's hard, it's
Another-
challenging to bring the kids back, calm them down after the game time. But the thing is that for the younger kids, if they were asked, sitting in the classroom for, after 10:30, still remain in the same classroom environment and sitting there, even though they are snacking snacks, kind of relaxed, but still it's too long for the, especially younger kids. They really need to move around to get refreshed.
How about we cut the drop time a little bit shorter and make game time longer? Right now we have game time about half hour, how about 45 minutes?
Okay, the
So
issue.
move everything up and.
Okay.
So before this schedule change, how long is the whole class?
The full class was from 11:30 to 12:45.
So it's.
But we, in between that time, we had singing, large group, and then classroom time. So the classroom time was from 12 to 12:45, 45 minutes.
Yeah,
So basically that's covered from 9:15 to 10:30,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's the same, yeah. That we
It's the
basically
same.
just moved it, the same thing.
Yeah, so then we're just adding the rest of
We're
it.
just adding the more
Maybe
relaxed
that
part.
one,
Yeah.
as
I mean,
you-
there are ways to calm kids down.
Yeah.
It's just that depends on how you will do it. Now, we can tell, because today's the first day. I mean, I definitely see what your point is. But if we are not gonna change, I just wanna let you know, there are ways that, you know, when children, like I tell the children, when you're ready, you lined up at the door. And then the teacher's part, you take it over and say, well, now, we're gonna take a walk from here back to the classroom. And during this time, you can have them take a deep breath. You can, we're gonna walk calmly, we're gonna calm ourselves down because we're gonna get our hearts ready for them. So you have lots of things you have to talk to them about. And they have the anticipation, I'm moving, I'm moving, I'm moving, and then it's hard for me to calm down. So this is our job, to calm them down and say, well, we're gonna prepare our hearts, we're gonna walk, we can do different things. You know, you can have them to do, try follow me, even the younger children can do different things and do it with me. You know, follow me, do this, and then they will pay attention. And you can walk and say, now we're gonna take a bathroom break. And now I want to wash your hands. So when you go inside the classroom, I want you to sit down quiet. You just have different ways. You can say, you know, quietly, I want them to listen to you, and then